Hello, and welcome back to actually the second session of A Life in Music with me, AJ Angelo. The first one, if you tuned in, was the beginning of the beginning, how it actually all started. And it got me through the college days, my 90 days of college. And then starting when I came back to Columbus at the Ground Round. And there's still some stories about the Ground Round that I will cover. But before I actually got the gig at the Ground Round, I did my open mic nights, and a friend of mine had a connection at a place called the CC Lounge, and that was in Reynoldsburg, Ohio. It was an apartment complex, and I can't remember exactly how I got that, but I went in there, set up, and waited for the crowd. Well, it was mom and dad, two other people, and my music teacher, Mike Refkin, whose PA system I was borrowing that night because I was brand new, didn't know how to have a PA system. So I got set up, not many people there, which was, I guess, a little disheartening, but understood because I was just getting started. So I started playing the handful of songs I knew. And throughout the show, where I was set up, the stage was, let's say where I am, the people out in front of me, it wasn't a real big area, but maybe enough for 30 people out there, 20, 30 people. And it was blocked off from the bar area, but the bar area could still hear me. So as I was playing, I don't know, I got into maybe the fourth or fifth song, and a voice came from the bar area that said, "Turn on the jukebox." So I tried to ignore, and I went and played a couple more songs. And once again, the voice come bellowing out, "Turn on the jukebox." So this was my first actual out of college gig before I got to start playing the Ground Round. So my confidence at this point was sky high. You can just imagine. It was not a pleasant night. I went on to play for about an hour and a half, I believe. It was not the full night. So we got home, and I remember sitting in front of the TV, and Dad came down to the end of the hallway from his bedroom and said, "How much does that PA, how much would a PA system cost? That thing you were playing through, how much would that cost? If you were to," I said, "Dad, I don't know." So he said, "Well, find out." So I did. I went and found out, went to Coil Music, if you remember Coil Music, in Reynoldsburg. And so I ended up buying a PV system. Well, I didn't. Dad did. Mom and Dad. It was a PV system, 2 towers, a head, and one of the clip together monitors, if you remember PV systems at all. And it did wonders. I used that for years and years and years. Finally got to use it when I got hired at the Ground Round. So things turned out a little better because I learned how to run a little bit of sound. It's really just my voice and my guitar. So things were going better, but I still had just because of the "Please Don't Sing" this song while we're practicing for a wedding. I was asked not to sing while we were practicing, and please, hey, turn on the jukebox. Those were not real big ego boosters for me. So I had to figure out a way to take the focus off my voice. So I did. I started wearing hats. I didn't look at it as a show move. I looked at it as a way to take the focus off my voice. Again, not only the goofy songs I learned, but hats. So, for example, the goofy song "Ahab the Arab." I sang that song, and maybe later in a sequence I'll sing it for you. That's not the goofy song I'm going to sing today. I'm just not ready for it. But during that one, I had a pith helmet, like a safari helmet, and I would put a towel down the back of my head down my neck, put the pith helmet on, and sing Ahab the Arab. People laughed and laughed and laughed. And so there was other things during the fireman song. George Strait, I would put on a fireman's helmet. So there was several different things I would do just to take the focus off me singing. So I ended up with a big hat tree. And one of the songs I did was Spiders and Snakes. And a good friend of mine from high school, one of my best buddies from high school, Chris Williams, he bought me what was a crab hat. And that's a whole different story in itself. And Chris, if you're watching, you know. And but it was a joke. But I thought, you know what? If I took the pinchers off, it looks like a spider. So I did. I pulled and I'm going to try to find a picture. I believe I have a picture of me in that spider hat, crab hat, spider hat. So I would wear that during Spiders and Snakes. So this is one of the goofy songs I had learned early, again, to take the focus off my voice. And so I'm going to play it for you here. That was the type of stuff I did with hats on. And people would call it, oh man, that was a great show. I did not understand I didn't understand that. It was me avoiding anything to do with my voice, like I said. So as time went on, I met someone who was at the open mic nights, and she would come and she had just a great voice, beautiful, high-pitched voice. Mine was a low, gravelly voice, and her name was Diane. So Diane and I actually formed a duo for Ground Round nights. So we were called Silver Touch. And I think I have a picture of that too. And I'm going to find all this stuff. And we would wear, they're kind of like mafia hats. I forget what you call them. But we would wear those, and we would wear a vest. And I would do some solo. She would do some solo. We would do a lot of songs together. And eventually she would sing that song, but she would sing the female part. And it got to be a fun show. We were big Neil Young fans also. So Diane and I did a lot of music. And when I was saying in the previous show that my first guitar was a Sigma from Martin, she actually has the very first guitar. She bought it from me. And she still has the very first guitar I ever owned that wasn't the plywood guitar that I learned on. So it was a fun relationship, fun time, a ton of memories through that. So from the Ground Rounds, as a solo, I got hired at a place called Costello's. And this was up basically on campus. And it was in a Big Bear shopping plaza, if I remember. I played there on Tuesday nights. I remember they come in and ask me if I want to maybe come in and play on a weeknight. And I said, sure, I'll give it a try. And so I played there for quite a few years on a Tuesday night. A couple of fun things about that place. Sometimes I forget my age when I was where, but I know at Costello's that I actually had my 21st birthday there. So all this had been happening from the age of 18 through now. I'm turning 21 during my stint at Costello's. So I would play there, and people now, because I brought my hat rack everywhere, people now were buying me hats because I collected hats, I guess. One of the hats that always left a mark with me, and Carl and Jenny bought me this hat. It was a ball hat, but coming out of the front of the hat was the behind of a bull. Okay, if you understand what I'm saying. The two legs are on there, and there's the behind with a tail. On the brim of the hat was a pile of bull dung. So it was a BS hat, is exactly what it was. But not only that, it had a pair of hands out like this and a string coming down. I'm serious about this now. And a string coming down, and when you pull the string, the hands would go back and forth together like this. So that was my birthday present. And So that night, I sang Happy Birthday to myself. Well, I played it, and everybody else sang along. I was playing Happy Birthday, and I had the hat on because they gave it to me. And at the end of that song, I was pulling, yay! I was clapping and yaying. From that point on, for years, I mean, there's a lot that happened. Even when I went to the full band many years later, I still had that hat, and it was still the Happy Birthday hat. That thing lasted forever. And I'll explain what happened to all the hats at another time. But Costello's was a special place. It was kind of long and narrow, and I played by the front door. The front door is to my right, everybody else is left. The bar was right in front of me, so people sat around the bar, but maybe one table in between, and then folks would sit all along the wall. And so I could see everybody and greet everybody as they walked through the door. And that kind of got to be a habit. And I still do that today. I'd see when people walk in the door and I greet them, say hi and wave. Just give us like, glad you're here. And there was one time, and folks around the Columbus, Ohio area will know what I'm talking about when I mentioned a band called McGuffey Lane. They were neck and neck with Alabama, and they were both signed by Atlantic Records. And they were just one of the best premier bands, really, in our area or anywhere in the country. They just missed out. But anyway, a fellow by the name of Steve Reese was the bass player, and incredible harmony singer. So I'm playing one night, and he was very recognizable guy. And he walks in with his female friend, and I got butterflies instantly. I was starstruck. And they went back and sat down. And I was still using my PV system, my PV microphone, but I always carried an extra microphone. Again, anything I could to help take the focus off my voice so I had other people sing. So Steve comes in and sits down, and they listen for about 20, 30 minutes maybe. And I was just thrilled, very nervous, and they got up and they were walking out, and, I nodded and he said, nice job. I'll be back I'll be back later. I said, thank you. And it was just a thrill that he actually came to listen some. What was better than that? About a half hour later, he came back in with his bass guitar. This is Steve Reese from McGuffey Lane coming in with his bass guitar and says, do you mind if I play along? If it all ended right there, I'd have been pretty doggone happy. So, yeah. And he got his good bass out. We had never obviously played together before. He knew every song I knew. He had played, he was just incredible. So he could play anything. So I'm just playing my songs, and he's playing. And he's singing, I remember, because it was everything I could do to get as close to the microphone as I can to sing. I had his about half the volume of mine, his microphone, and he was singing about 4 inches away from that microphone and louder than me. It was unbelievable. What an experience. That was just crazy, awesome experience for me. My brush with greatness. Steve Reese. And Steve, if you're happen to be watching, thank you again. I know you brought it up recently at a show, and I just can't thank you enough. That meant the world to me. But little did I know, and that night ended spectacularly, but little did I know, as time went on, my cousin Tom would come in because he lived on campus. He was a rock and roll drummer, incredible piano player. He wrote 2 albums on his own, just on piano and drums. That's all it was. Noah's Aardvark, I believe it was called. And he was phenomenal. He could sing any harmony. He knew every song. He could just play anything, sing anything. So he would come in with his friends, and I had my microphone, so he'd come in and sing some harmonies with me. And that was a lot of fun, had a great time. Another guy came in at a different time, and like I said, I played there for several years, and his name was Gar Phillips. And Gar, if you're listening, this was our start. He would come in, and he saw Tommy sing it, so he asked if he could sing some. So Gar would sing some harmonies with me, Then the three of us would sing. But the funnest time was when the bar closed at 2, we all stayed and the bar staff stayed. Most 95% of the people left, and we were just in there kind of partying and singing. And we would sing these harmony songs, and we just had a ball singing together. It was just a little party. So from there, this went on for quite a long time. And so from there, I was playing solo at some other places, and there was one place in particular called the Watering Station in Reynoldsburg. It was just off of Main Street, and they had bands every Friday and Saturday night. It was a country bar, very country. So I learned a lot of country through this crazy journey. So I was asked to play on a St. Patrick's Day solo from maybe 1 to 4, 2 to 5, 2 to 6. I can't remember the exact time. But what I do remember is everybody would come out to the ground round, my whole family, all my friends from Whitehall, everybody would come in. The place was packed. And I hate to say this, but that's when drinking and driving wasn't such a big deal. And it was a crazy party all afternoon. Tommy was there, my cousin, the drummer, party with his friends all afternoon. Just when I was finishing up my show. Oh, and by the way, I was using, that night there was a band, and they were already set up. I was using their PA system. Their whole rig was set up. Their drums were there. Their amps were there. Everything was there for them to come in and just play. So the owner came up to me and said, "Hey, we have a situation. The lead singer of the band tonight, something like he was fixing his car, something fell on his arm, and he broke his arm, and they can't play. They can't sing tonight. Any chance you can find some people you know to fill in for tonight?" And again, I'm maybe 3 years into this thing, maybe, and still not the most confident guy in the world, but I could have fun. That was the biggest thing, I guess, is I didn't even realize how much fun I was having, but I could have fun. So now I was partaking all afternoon like everybody else, I got to say it. And he said, "You know some people?" I said, "I don't know. Let me find out." So the only drummer I knew was my cousin Tom, who had been there all afternoon and had gone home. So I called him and I said, "Hey, Tom." He would answer the phone. He was passed out. Answer the phone. And I said, "Hey, you want to come back and make $50 tonight? Play the drums that are here?" He said, "Sure." So we never played a note together. He was total rock and roll. I was more on the folk countryside. So now we have a 2-piece band, and there happened to be a guy sitting at the bar. I dated his sister at one time. His name was Randy. I didn't know anything about Randy except he played harmonica. I never heard him play harmonica, but I heard he did. So I went up to Randy because he was still sitting there. I said, "Hey, by any chance, do you have your harps with you?" "Oh yeah, I always have them. They're in the car." "You want to make $50 and play tonight with me?" "Sure." Okay. We have a band. That's all we had. Myself, Tommy on the drums, Randy on the harmonica. We played for 4 hours that night, never playing a note together previously. Just Tommy and I sang some. And we had the best time. We had so much fun. People came back that were there in the afternoon. We had so much fun. The owner came up and said, "Hey, you guys want to play here next weekend?" What? Now we're in a real bar, big bar, dancing. People, this is a big bar. Sure. So the only catch was Randy did not want to play in a band. He did not want to get tied down to the weekends. Tommy was, yeah, he's playing with bands, but now he has a chance to actually get paid. So guess who we call on? Gar, who also was singing. But at the time, during Costello's, he was learning to play the bass. Never played the bass before. He was learning. "Hey, Gar, you want to play next weekend? Play bass and sing next weekend? $50. "Sure." This is how much talent was on that stage. We had the best time. We learned songs, and played pretty much every weekend for a year at that place. Pretty much. And again, I would wear my hats. I had my hat tree. So those guys joined in. They got a hat tree and had some hats too. Hence the name of the band at that time, the Mad Hatters. I mean, that's pretty good. So one of the highlights was Gar singing the Auctioneer song. He had just an incredible voice, lead voice, harmony voice. He was phenomenal. And he learned to play bass like nobody's business. He put a ton of time in. But one of our highlights of the Mad Hatters at the watering station was when we played Rocky Raccoon. If you remember that song, the Beatles song. Well, Tom, who really wasn't a lead vocalist, wanted to sing that song. That'd be great. But there were some pretty cool guitar parts in there. Tom was an incredible musician, played piano, guitar, drums. Like I said, he could play a lot. So the arrangement we made, because he didn't want to sit behind the drums and sing, so he would come up front and sing. And he would bring out his electric guitar. And so it was Gar on the bass, Tommy up front with his guitar, and me, to get out of the way, I went and sat back behind the drums with my guitar. So I played the rhythm part. So while sitting back there one night, there's two pedals down here. One was the kick drum and one was the hi-hat. So while I'm doing this, I went boom, tss, boom, tss. So I'm playing the drums-ish on guitar, or with my feet playing guitar, and these guys died. I mean, and Tom would go, and then he would sing, Raccoon. I mean, it was a showstopper. So that was just a lot of the fun we got to have during these times, and I nothing will replace that. So I'm going to go into one more quick story before I end this session. We hired a guy to play lead guitar because it was 95%, 98% of the time, bass guitar, rhythm guitar, drums, there were no lead breaks. So we hired a guy, and when we auditioned him, he was phenomenal. He was like great. And so we brought him in. So we had 4 guys. And then he would play very well on some weekends. On other weekends, it's like he'd never played guitar before. It was the weirdest thing. It was like he couldn't play a lead part I'm not sure what happened. But we put up with this for a decent amount of time, and it just was not going well. The 3 of us were so upset. And one night, a guy was in the audience, and he came up and he said, at the end of the night, he said, hey, he caught our lead guitar player on a bad night. He said, hey, it sounds like you guys might need a lead guitar player. Said, yeah, all right, yes. Yeah, we're thinking about it, that's for sure. So he said, well, do you mind if I audition? We said, it can't hurt, what the hell? We went to Tom's house because he had the drums and it was set up in his living room up on campus. I would go with my guitar. Gar would bring his bass, bring his little amp. And a guy named Randy came in, and he set up his stuff. And we started playing the first song. And he starts playing along. Halfway through the first song, I just stopped everybody. I said, okay, obviously you can play with anybody you want. We aren't good. You are good. Because he was unbelievable. He played like Eric Clapton, kind of looked like him, found out he actually sang like him. His name is Randy Ross. He said, yeah, I've played with a lot of people and I could pretty much play with anybody I want, but you guys are having a lot of fun. And I'd really like to have fun when I'm playing. So, you sure? So here comes Randy Ross. The 4 of us played at that place at least through the end of the year, for a year. But because he was so good and because he had played with so many bands, he had connections with other bigger bars. And one was called Runaround Sue's. So I'm going to get into the Runaround Sue's story because that place was a story within itself. But the four of us played for a long time. We had tried to change our name because Mad Hatters was cute, but we wanted to have a country name. We changed our name to Legend. Okay? And only to find out there was somebody in Ohio that already had that name copywritten and so on. But so we're trying to figure out another name for our band. At that time, we were called Legend. And so the four of us were getting ready to play a festival. And there were four bands during that Saturday. Four bands in a row that were going to be playing one right after the other. We were the third band to be playing. Our name was Legend. The first band's name was up on top, who was going to start at whatever time it was, noon. The second band's name was right there. It was our turn to be listed, and it said, Another Band. That's how we were listed. We weren't listed as Legend. We were listed as Another Band. And then the closer was there. Their name was there. So we played, we laughed about that. And so we got done, and we had to change our name anyway. So it came down to, I guess we're just another band. Hence what started the name that lasted for probably 9 years, Just Another Band. That's how that started. So there you go. Another new start, another new set of stories with Just Another Band. So stay tuned, and I'm going to wrap it up for today. But stay tuned because there's a lot of stories coming up about the band, the ones I'm allowed to tell. So I look forward to visiting with you some more. Please remember to subscribe and like the channel. It does help the channel. And I look forward to seeing you again soon. Bye-bye.